Hakujushi, Cedar Trees, by Eihei Dogen, from Shobogenzo, the Treasury of the True Dharma Eye. Great Master Shinsei of Joshu is the 37th patriarch after the Tathagata Shakyamuni. He first establishes the Bodhi mind when he is 61 years old and leaves home to learn the truth. At that time he vows, even if someone is 100 years old, if he is inferior to me, I will teach him. Even if someone is 7 years old, if he is superior to me, I shall ask him to teach me. Vowing thus, he travels as a cloud through the south. As he continues on his quest for the truth, he arrives at Nansen and goes to do prostrations to the master Nansen Fugen. Nansen happens to be lying down in the abbot's quarters, and when the master comes to see him, Nansen asks him right away, "Where are you from?" The master says, "Zuizo Inn, Auspicious Image Temple." Nansen says, "Have you seen the auspicious image yet?" The master says, "I have not seen any auspicious image, but right now I see a reclining Tathagata." Then Nansen gets up at once and asks, "Are you a novice who has a master, or a novice without a master?" The master replies, "A novice who has a master." Nansen says, "Who is your master?" The master says, "It is early spring and still cold. With respect, master, I am very happy to see you in such fine form." Nansen immediately calls the Ino and says, "Find a special place for this novice." Thus, Joshu joins the order of Nansen, where he directs his energy in pursuit of the truth for 30 years, without visiting other districts at all. He does not waste a moment of time and is free of miscellaneous preoccupations. Eventually, after he has received the transmission of the truth and received the behavior, he resides for another 30 years as master of Kanonin Temple in Joshu. The facts and features of his life as a temple master are never the same as those of the ordinary masters of other districts. On one occasion he says, "Fruitlessly we stare at the smoking fires of neighbors all around. We have not seen a bun or a rice cake since last year. Thinking of them today, I vainly swallow my spit. Periods of composure are scarce, sighs are frequent. Among 100 people, there is no good person. Those who come here only say that they want to drink tea. Unable to drink tea, they leave in anger." Pitifully, in Joshu's order, a smoking fire is a rare event. They have little plain food, and they have not had a meal of many tastes since the previous year. If 100 people come, they are all looking for tea. Those who are not after tea do not come. There may be no one among 100 people who could bring tea. There are common monks who meet the wise man, but there might be no dragons and elephants who want to be the same as him. On another occasion he says, considering people throughout the country who have left home, how many can there be who endure a life like mine? A bed of earth and a tattered straw mat. The old elm log pillow is totally bare. I burn no incense before the honored images. In the ashes I smell only the whiff of cow dung. From those words of the truth, we can know the spotless cleanliness and purity of that order. We should study and learn these ancient traces today. The monks were not many. It is said that the assembly numbered less than 20, and the reason was that the life was so difficult to endure. The monks' hall was not large. It had neither a front hall nor a rear washstand. It had no lighting at night and no charcoal fire in winter. We might say they were the living conditions of a pitiful old man. But the behavior of eternal Buddhas is like this. Once, when a leg of the Zazen platform broke, they bound it with a charred log and made do with this for years and months. Whenever the temple officers reported that it should be repaired, the master refused. This is an excellent example, rare through the ages. Usually, the gruel for lunch and breakfast was thinned out so much that it was completely devoid of grain. They vainly faced empty windows and the dust in cracks. Sometimes they would gather nuts, which the monks of the assembly and the master himself used to enliven their daily diet. When present students of later ages praise this behavior, although we do not equal the master's behavior, we assume veneration of the ancients as our attitude of mind. One day, Joshu preaches to the assembly, "For the 30 years I was in the south, I solely sat in Zazen. If you people want to attain this one great matter, you should see if you can master its principle by sitting in Zazen. After 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, or 30 years, if you have not attained the truth, you may make the skull of this old monk into a dipper for scooping piss." This was his vow. Truly, pursuing the truth by sitting in Zazen is the direct path to the Buddha's truth. We should master its principle by sitting and seeing. Later people would say, "The eternal Buddha, Joshu." The great master is once asked by a monk, "What is the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West?" The master says, the cedar trees in the garden. The monk says, Master, do not teach a person with objective things. The master says, I do not teach people with objective things. The monk says, what is the ancestral patriarch's intention in coming from the West? The master says, the cedar trees in the garden. This koan, although it stemmed from Joshu, ultimately is that which all Buddhas, with their whole bodies, have established. Just who is the boss? The truth we should recognize in the present story is the principle that cedar trees in the garden are beyond objective things, and the principle that cedar trees in the garden are beyond the self, because the monk says, Master, do not teach a person with objective things, and because Joshu says, I do not teach people with objective things. What master could be restricted by being master? Because he is not restricted, he may be I. What I could be restricted by being I? Even if restricted, I may be a person. What objective thing could not be restricted by the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West? Because objective things must inevitably be his intention in coming from the West. At the same time, the intention in coming from the West is beyond dependence upon objective things. The ancestral master's intention in coming from the West is not necessarily the right Dharma-eye treasury and the fine mind of nirvana. It is beyond the concrete mind, beyond the concrete state of Buddha, and beyond concrete things. The present expression, what is the ancestral master's intention in coming from the West, is not only the asking of a question, and is not only two people having got the same idea. Just at the moment of such a question, it is impossible for the questioner to meet with anybody, and by himself he can attain how much? To express it further, he is free of wrongness, and therefore he is one mistake after another mistake. Because he is mistake after mistake, he sees a mistake as a mistake. Could this be other than on hearing silence, touching sound? Because the all-pervading soul is free of attachment and detachment. It is cedar trees in the garden. Without being objective things, cedar trees cannot be cedar trees. Even though cedar trees are objective things, Joshu says, I do not teach people with objective things. And the monk says, Master, do not teach a person with objective things. Cedar trees are beyond an old shrine. Because they are beyond an old shrine, they keep on vanishing. Because they keep on vanishing, give me back my effort. Because the state is expressed, give me back my effort. Joshu says, I do not teach people with objective things. What else might he use to teach people? Maybe I am also like this. The great master is asked by a monk, in the end, do cedar trees have the Buddha nature or not? The great master says, they have. The monk says, when do cedar trees become Buddha? The great master says, they time it with space falling to the ground. The monk says, when does space fall to the ground? The great master says, in time with the cedar trees becoming Buddha. We should listen to the present words of the great master, and we should not disregard the questions of this monk. When the great master speaks of the time of space falling to the ground, and the time of cedar trees becoming Buddha, he is not expressing a state in which two factors are waiting on each other. The monk is questioning cedar trees and questioning the Buddha nature. He is questioning becoming Buddha and is questioning time. He is questioning space and is questioning falling to the ground. When in reply to the monk, the great master now says, they have, he is saying that the Buddha nature of cedar trees actually exists. Attaining mastery of this truth, we should thus penetrate the lifeblood of the Buddhist patriarchs. The words quoted here, that cedar trees have the Buddha nature, ordinarily cannot be expressed, and they have never before been expressed. But cedar trees do indeed have the Buddha nature, and we should clarify this situation. How high in the universal order are these cedar trees that do have the Buddha nature situated here and now? We should investigate the length of their age, their life, and their physical bodies. We should identify their families and species. To go further, do hundreds of thousands of cedar trees all belong to the same caste, or do they have distinct bloodlines? Is it possible that there are cedar trees which become Buddha, cedar trees which undergo training, and cedar trees which establish the mind? Or is it that although cedar trees become Buddha, they are not furnished with virtues such as training and establishment of mind? What causes and conditions are there linking cedar trees and space? If cedar trees becoming Buddha is inevitably in time with you falling to the ground, does that mean that a cedar tree's virtue as a tree is necessarily related with space? As regards the stages of a cedar tree, is space a cedar tree's initial state, or a cedar tree's ultimate stage? We should consider and investigate these questions in detail. Let me ask you, old Joshu, is it because you yourself are a withered old cedar tree that you could breathe life into such vivid thoughts? In summary, that cedar trees have the Buddha nature is beyond non-Buddhist, the two vehicles, and the like, and is beyond the perceptions of teachers of sutras and commentaries. How much less could it be preached by the flowery words of people like withered trees and dead ash? It is learned and mastered only by those of the Joshu species. The words now spoken by Joshu, that cedar trees have the Buddha nature, ask, are cedar trees restricted by cedar trees or not? And is the Buddha nature restricted by the Buddha nature or not? This expression had never been perfectly realized before, not by one Buddha or by two Buddhas. Even those who have the Buddha countenance cannot always perfectly realize this expression of the truth. Even among Buddhas, there may be Buddhas who can express it, and there may be Buddhas who cannot express it. The aforementioned waiting for space to fall to the ground does not describe something that may never happen. At every time when cedar trees become Buddha, space falls to the ground. The sound of such falling to the ground is louder than 100,000 rolls of thunder. The time of cedar trees becoming Buddha, while provisionally described as in the 12 hours, is also the 12 hours themselves. The space that falls to the ground is not merely the space seen by the common and the sacred. There is a unity of space beyond this, which is not seen by other people, but Joshu alone sees it. The ground on which space falls is also other than the ground occupied by the common and the sacred. There is a unity of ground beyond this, which is not reached by the forces of yin and yang, but Joshu alone has reached it. The moment when space falls to the ground, even for the sun and moon and mountains and rivers, must be a matter of timing. Who can assert that the Buddha nature must necessarily become Buddha? The Buddha nature is an adornment which follows after becoming Buddha. Furthermore, there may also be Buddha nature which appears together with and experiences together with becoming Buddha. In conclusion, cedar trees and the Buddha nature are not different sounds in the same tune. They are, in other words, the indefinable. We should investigate them, asking, Like what? Preached to the assembly at Kannon-dori-in Temple in the Uji district of Yoshu on the 21st day of the 5th lunar month, the season of the Japanese iris, in the 3rd year of Ninji.